These four Americans decided to fight for Russia, and for at least one of them, that decision would prove deadly. Just 2 months ago, in June of 2024, a video came out on Telegram showing Seth William Baker, a former United States Marine, who said that he was kicked out of the Marine Corps for not taking the COVID vaccine. According to United States Marine Corps records, Baker served in the Marines from August 2019 until May 2022 as a bulk fuel specialist. And in his own words, this is why Baker decided to join the Russians.
Hello guys, I'm Seth William Baker, formerly in the United States Marines. Here's my picture. There's many reasons that I came here, but one of the big tipping points was when I was a Lance Corporal. I was due for promotion the next month, and they came out with the COVID vaccine mandate in the military, and I'm a young, healthy man, and I've already had COVID before, and so I don't need that. And so there was a few of us, not very many unfortunately, that said we're not going to take it, and so they kicked us out. So I lost my promotion to corporal. I was also in the process of becoming a police officer in the state of Arizona, and I lost my place at the police academy as well. So very, very rough things, and so there's all this talk of freedom in America, but not for some of us, I suppose.
Now look, I had soldiers who exited the Army due to the COVID vaccine mandate. Some of them started a business, others went back to school, and I'm proud to say that exactly 0 decided to join the Russian military. Now, Seth's decision here is pretty boring, actually, compared with our next example. John MacIntyre, who thinks he's some sort of Jason Bourne straight out of Hollywood. MacIntyre served in the U.S. Army as a mortarman, or 11 Charlie, from June of 2015 to August of 2017. Barely 2 years. That is shorter than most initial terms of service. It's not entirely clear what forced him to end his career early. He had no deployments, held the rank of private first class at the time that he exited the U.S. Army. And then 5 years later, in March of 2022, MacIntyre arrived in Ukraine to serve with the International Legion. And according to MacIntyre, he did so he could spy on Ukrainian forces for the Russian government. He would soon after defect to the Russian side and conduct this interview on Russia Today.
Why are you here? I mean...
Well, it's the reason I came to Ukraine in the first place. You know, I'm a communist, I'm an anti-fascist, and we have to fight fascism everywhere, you know. So when I came to Ukraine, I knew that I would try to get as much information as I could about, you know, anything that would be helpful, and defect across lines.
Now, as soon as this interview aired, a lot of stories started to come out about MacIntyre from soldiers currently in the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. Apparently, MacIntyre had told some of them that he was wanted by the FBI for threatening to kill somebody in the White House. He told another that he had converted to Islam and was preparing to do a jihad, whatever he means by that. And it was pretty early on that MacIntyre became a real liability for the soldiers in the Foreign Legion. He started drinking heavily, showing signs of public intoxication in the war zone, even disappearing into the woods half naked during an artillery barrage, only to be found hours later after his fellow soldiers risked their lives looking for him. Eventually, things got so bad with MacIntyre that he was limited to non-combat tasks and wasn't authorized to carry a weapon. So now that he'd been discharged from the U.S. Army for some reason and put in timeout, essentially, by the Ukrainians, he hoped maybe, just maybe, he'd fit in with the Russians across the river. And he did, for a short period of time, appearing in an interview for Russia Today that we showed earlier and sending a message back to the men that he fought alongside in Ukraine saying, quote, "Spies exist, and I'm a spy. Mission accomplished." Now, MacIntyre hasn't made any public appearances in over a year and a half since he first defected, so who knows, maybe he wasn't all that useful to the Russians, at least not as useful as our next example. Wilmer Puello-Mota, which I'm going to have a hard time with that name, we're probably just going to go with Wilmer, was a technical sergeant and security forces airman with the Massachusetts Air National Guard's 104th Fighter Wing, having previously served on active duty from 2013 to 2019, reaching the rank of staff sergeant. Then in March of 2024, a video of Wilmer flying the U.S. flag over ruined buildings in Avdiivka emerged. We'll play some of that here.
We're here to plant the U.S. flag as a sign of friendship and support for all the things that people are enduring here. And it's a small token of a small task that we can do to show our support. I mean, just we have to end this. I mean, you look around Avdiivka and you see what's happening. You see the destroyed buildings. You see These are people's homes. We need to support Russia. We have to have friendship. We have to make sure that all the goals laid out are fulfilled.
Wilmer, had me in the first half there. I thought you were going to say that we have to support Ukraine because you're standing in the ruins of Avdiivka, a Ukrainian city with a pre-war population of 32,000 that has since been turned into rubble by the Russian military because Putin chose to invade Ukraine. That is the Russian military that you have since joined and are fighting alongside. So I guess we'll have to agree to disagree that destroying all of the Ukrainians' homes and killing Ukrainian citizens is somehow liberating them. But he did have a few more words for the American people.
You know, there's Old Glory, the U.S. flag, and I hope that people back home see it. I hope people understand and look at independent facts, right? Do your own research, do your own homework.
Okay, so we'll do our own research and independent facts, and in doing so, it looks like Wilmer was separated from the National Guard following his 2020 arrest by the Warwick Police Department in Rhode Island on charges of paying a 17-year-old for illicit pictures. According to the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, Wilmer took a flight to Istanbul just 2 days before he was scheduled to appear in court. So who knows? Maybe Wilmer has a lot of ideological associations with Russia, or maybe he's just trying to avoid child pornography charges for pictures that were found on his phone. Could be one, could be the other, could be both. Now, Wilmer has been highlighted in a fair amount of Russian propaganda, just like this one here, praising Russia and talking about how he plans to stay and continue to fight.
So obviously it's a difficult situation, right? It's it's war, it's a special military operation, but I was lucky to be there with people from Petnashka, with people from the International Brigade, and we did our work, we did our job, we did what we were supposed to do, and I was very lucky and fortunate to serve with those guys. I definitely would do it again. I'd go back if I could with them. Great people, fantastic people. The social support has been amazing. People are so supportive. I mean, this is the least that I can do, is to give back and help. I mean, everybody's just been so kind, so supportive, and just ready to help me move forward. And I want to help them now continue the mission. So
Be careful, Wilmer. That popular status of being the new American speaking out on behalf of Russia doesn't last long. And like our last example, they don't always survive. Now, similar to our first three examples, Russell Bentley did have a military background. He served in the U.S. Army for 3 years as a combat engineer in the early 1980s. Bentley had a few run-ins with the law that included a prison escape where he lived 8 years on the lam before being recaptured, sent back to prison, before being finally released in 2008. Now, as a self-declared communist, Bentley decided to join Russian forces to fight against Ukraine in the Donbass in 2014. Now, while Bentley did start as a fighter on the front lines, he quickly took a liking to reporting the media war, a role in which he held semi-professionally with a variety of Russian media outlets. Again, being the American speaking English, talking about all of the wonderful things that Russia was doing in the Donbass, saying, quote, "My words are my bullets now, and they have a range that goes all the way around the world." And then by the time Russia launched their full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022, Bentley had become a pretty influential propagandist for the Kremlin. He was widely known across Donetsk and Luhansk as the Donbass Cowboy, and by his call sign Texas, or pronounced in Russian Tejas, and was eventually granted Russian citizenship in 2021. And you can see through some of his postings why he was so popular in Russian media, saying things like, quote, "Heading west with the liberators of Ukraine, we may stop in Kyiv. We may stop on the English Channel. We may liberate the United States of America." We even have some footage of Bentley reporting as Russian forces continued their push into Ukraine in the early days of the war.
It's Tejas on the front line with the denazifiers and liberators of Ukraine. These guys are tough, these guys are ready, and there's plenty of them. So far, Russia has used about 10% of its military power, and we're getting ready to bring the hammer down. These guys are going to save and liberate all the good people in Ukraine, and the bad people, boom, kick their ass.
But despite his regional popularity, being an American in Russian-occupied territory would eventually cost Bentley his life. Bentley went missing on April 8th, 2024, and reports quickly emerged that he was detained by men in military uniforms from the DPR, the Donetsk People's Republic, while filming the aftermath of a Ukrainian attack. He was mistaken for a Ukrainian or American spy, tortured, and subsequently killed. Usually we talk about the foreigners in the Ukrainian military. I thought it was worth bringing up some of the Westerners, Americans specifically, who have chosen to fight with Russia. There's not a lot, all things considered, and as you can tell from this video, the handful that have gone over there have a checkered past, to say the least. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.